Hello and welcome to the New Central Studios in Lagos, Nigeria. The headlines for this are: South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa testifies before State Capture Commission of Inquiry. Zambian government heightens security in hotspots ahead of general elections on Thursday. Nigerian government introduces roads and bridges tolling policy. Details shortly. For viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, welcome to Continental Prime with me, Sulaiman Alede. Now, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa testified today at the country's State Capture Commission of Inquiry. This is the second time that he appears before the commission, and this time Ramaphosa focused on his role in government. During the state capture period, Ramaphosa was deputy president and head of government business. He was questioned about the capture of critical parastatal such as Transnet and the passenger rail agency gutted by corruption.
It became increasingly clearer through the so-called Gupta leaks and other revelations that a network of individuals was seemingly colluding with a number of people in government to occupy key positions and capture key institutions. I would say I had 5 options. The first option for me was to resign. The second would have been to speak out. And the third would have been to acquiesce and abet and just go along. And the fourth would have been to keep quiet and remain silent. And the fifth option would have been to remain, but to resist, hoping that we can turn things around.
South African journalist and editor Diane Hawker joins me now to unpack this story. Diane, good to see you. Now, President Ramaphosa is at the commission for the second time. What were the key aspects of his testimony?
Well, as you heard there, the president was really speaking about his role in government. His first testimony focused more on the policies of the African National Congress and how they might have affected state capture. But this focus was really about what was discussed in cabinet and if he in any way resisted state capture, because that's really been a big question that's been coming from the public as well as from critics of the Ramaphosa government to say, you know, he was deputy president at the time of the state capture period. Did he do anything to resist it? He indicated to the commission that his approach was more to stay and see if he could turn things around from the inside, as well as to contest for the ANC presidency once it became vacant. But the question still remained about how much he knew and whether there was more that could have been done. And that was a large part of the line of questioning, particularly when it came to some of the parastatals such as Eskom, which we know was gutted by the state capture period, you know, as well as Transnet and the passenger rail agency, which is PRASA, which manages our rail system across the country.
Now, you know, Diane, the commission spent some time speaking about the issues at the passenger rail agency, which you also mentioned. But what did Ramaphosa say about that in particular?
Yes, absolutely. There was quite a lot of time spent on the PRASA testimony. And we actually saw the Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo asking very direct and pointed questions to say that, you know, he actually said what happened at Prasa was quite depressing. And he found it strange that the president seemed to not have much information about this, because the former board chairman of Prasa indicated that he had tried various avenues. He had written to parliament, he'd written to the executive, he'd written to the ruling party. And as head of government business at the time, which is the role that the deputy president fulfills, he should have known something and been able to act. And essentially, Ramaphosa's response was to say that he found it strange that the former board chairman of Prasa found that he couldn't do anything because there were systems in place that could have aided him. But the fact of the matter is, with state capture, a lot of those systems were actually corroded or eroded by those in charge. So there was a lot of things that the president said he couldn't quite speak about because he wasn't directly involved in that. And he also indicated that there were silos working within cabinet. So other ministers would not necessarily know what their government counterparts were dealing with, which the commission found a bit strange.
Before now, the commission had been, criticized for being soft on President Ramaphosa. Did they change their tactics this time?
Yes, that was one of the features of his first testimony. People were saying that there was a lot more that the commission could have pushed Ramaphosa on, particularly since a lot of the decisions made within the ANC ultimately do end up becoming government policy. And I think the approach that the commission took this time around was a bit more firm. We saw some direct questioning from the commission chairperson to say, you've got to explain this because we don't understand it, as well as putting some of the testimony brought by other people forward to say, this person said A, B, and C. What is your response to that? So I think it was a lot more of a pointed cross-examination, and we're expecting to see that continue tomorrow. They did touch on Eskom and Prasa and only started on Transnet, and it's likely that they will continue with Transnet tomorrow and possibly move to also asking him about how things may have improved in government since the state capture period.
Before I let you go, one other big story that happened today in South Africa is the ruling party's suspended Secretary General is Makashule. He appeared in court today, and perhaps give us the highlight of that proceeding.
Yes, well, that was another important case, big case that we saw unfolding today. The former Secretary General of the ANC is facing significant charges. And actually, those charges emanate from the state capture inquiry, allegations of fraud and corruption relating to an asbestos contract where the government was meant to have paid a contractor to fix the homes of residents in the Free State that still have asbestos in their roofs. That money was allegedly stolen, and the houses, we know, were not fixed. The court case was once again postponed. We've seen a number of postponements in this case, and they're expected to return to court on the 19th of October for that hearing. Hopefully by that time, the case will actually go ahead, because there's quite a lot of information and evidence in that case, and it's not likely to be a quick one for the courts to deal with, because there are several accused, I think more than 6 accused in that case, and very large sums of money that need to be dealt with via forensic reports and things like that.
Diane Hawker, many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, in Southern Africa, security has been heightened in some identified hotspots in Zambia ahead of the country's general election slated for Thursday, August 12. Secretary to the Cabinet, Simon Miti, says security has been heightened significantly in places that have witnessed violence in the run-up to the elections. Miti says the government expects all political parties to respect the law and allow only their designated election and polling agents to remain within the polling stations to avoid causing disorder. Now, he reiterated the government's commitment to adhere to the country's constitution and ensure that all registered voters were allowed to vote. Earlier, I spoke to Zambian journalist Lydia Makina on the security situation just hours before the election.
Getting involved in helping the police to make sure that the electoral process and the election, that the country being at peace is after the death of two people that were murdered, the 2 members of Patriotic Front in Lusaka that were murdered, and they suspected that from the UPND members murdered those people. And then that's how His Excellency Dr. Edgar Changwa took a step to deploy army in order to help the police to control the situation of violence. And it has really helped because ever since the army came in to help the police, the situation has been calm. There were a lot of violence happening in the country. People were killed, people's property were destroyed. There were, whenever UPND and the Patriotic Front would link, there could always be something that was going on between them, and the results were really terrible because we experienced a lot of violence that was happening. But the deploying of army came in at the right time, and it has helped the country to have a peace. So the opposition party feel it's something that it's something that is a threat, or it's making people not be comfortable. I mean, who would love to move around and seeing just army moving up and down?
Well, Lydia Makina, Zambian journalist, earlier on. Now, still on elections, the United Nations has launched a fresh round of talks at which delegates from across Libya will try to agree on arrangements for crucially essential elections. The aim is to settle on a constitutional framework to govern parliamentary and presidential polls scheduled for December. The delegates failed to reach a deal at similar talks 6 weeks ago. Failure to reach an agreement so far on issues in the run-up to the polls raises doubts as to whether the survey will go ahead as planned. Now, staying in Libya, the United Nations support mission there has expressed concern over the disappearance of a senior official in the provisional government who was abducted last week by unknown gunmen. Rida Faraj Freites and an unidentified colleague were kidnapped on August 2 in Tripoli's capital and have not been found to date. The head of the mission, Jean Kubis, called on Libyan authorities to investigate the alleged violations of international human rights law and international humanitarian law. Now, Nigeria's federal government has released a list of fees to be paid by road users. According to the Ministry of Works and Housing, the list was developed after extensive consultations with stakeholders within and outside the government. The roads and bridges tolling policy and regulations include fees ranging from 200 naira for cars to 500 naira for luxury buses and trucks, while SUVs and private buses will pay 300 naira. One of the tolling policy highlights states that commuters will pay a fixed or flat rate that is not dependent on distance traveled. The federal government assures its citizens that revenue generated from the toll will maintain the roads and repay investors who have invested in building or completing a route under the Highway Development Management Initiative. It said electronic toll collection and management systems will be prioritized over cash systems. Now, 2 months after the activities of Twitter were suspended in Nigeria, the government is now saying the ban could be lifted in a matter of days. Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed announced this on Wednesday after the weekly federal government council meeting. Mr. Mohammed told journalists that the status of the conversation with the microblogging site had reached an amicable stage, with agreements reached in all areas except 3 areas. Staying in Nigeria, the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, has set up a committee to resolve disputes arising from its recently concluded World Congresses. The secretary of the APC Caretaker Committee, John Akpana-Oded, says that the committee's purpose is to ensure no member of the party is excluded from the recently concluded exercise. He says the party is confident that members of the committee will be fair to all and ensure that their action will help deepen the country's democracy.
As an organization based on rules and procedures, avenues and channels must be provided for party members who are dissatisfied with the processes to ventilate their grievances through an internal mechanism. Hence, this World Congress's Appeal Committee in the circumstances of this exercise. This party is for all Nigerians. Therefore, we must show not only by words, but by concrete actions that there is no attempt to exclude or sideline anyone in the course of this exercise. This is very fundamental, not only to the caretaker Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee, but to the preservation of the very essence of the party.
Well, two members of a militant group in Burkina Faso have been convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison in the first trial of its kind in the country. The men were members of Ansarul Islam, a group formed by famous Islamic preacher Ibrahim Dikko, who reportedly died in 2019. The two men, aged 38 and 29, admitted to charges that they attacked a school in the central region in 2018 and set it on fire because they believed its teachings were contrary to Islamic law. The court also ordered them to pay $7,000 in damages. Let's move to East Africa. The African Union mission there in Somalia says its forces killed 7 Al-Shabaab terrorists and injured several others in a counter-offensive in the Lower Shabelle region. The mission there says in a statement, the terrorists were killed after they ambushed Ugandan troops on a routine patrol on the main supply routes between Baldamin Goldwyn forward operating bases in southern Somalia. The statement says items recovered after the counterattack include an assortment of weapons. UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, the Ethiopian Agency for Refugee and Returnee Affairs, and the non-governmental organization WISE, registering Eritrean refugees in Addis Ababa who fled from the now-destroyed Hitsats and Shimbalba camps in Tigray. The refugees issued ID cards to regularize their stay in the Ethiopian capital. They're also supported to open a bank account on site in which UNHCR will be providing one-off cash assistance to cover their immediate needs.
Doing issuance of identification documentation. So mainly we are providing IDs, individual IDs. So this will we plan this for two main reasons. The first one is for them to be legalized in Addis Ababa because previously they don't have documentation in Addis. The second one is UNHCR and ARA are planning to provide temporary assistance, cash assistance. So for that, we are providing the money through bank system. So for those to open a bank account.
And has decided to hand long-time autocrat Omar al-Bashir to the International Criminal Court and other officials wanted over the Darfur conflict. Foreign Minister Miriam Al-Mahdi says that the cabinet decided without giving a time frame. The cabinet's decision to hand him over happened during a visit to Sudan by ICC Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan, who met with Mahdi on Tuesday. Bashir, who ruled Sudan with an iron fist for 3 decades before being deposed amid widespread protests in 2019, is behind bars in Khartoum's high-security Koba prison. Amnesty International has previously called for Bashir to be held accountable for horrific crimes, referring to the genocide in Darfur. Coming up, Botswana to receive more COVID-19 vaccines this week. We'll bring you the details of this and others when we return. Stay with us. If you just joined us, you're welcome. You're watching the Continental Prime here on News Central Television. Now, lawmakers from the ECOWAS Parliament are meeting in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, to deliberate on solving an acute energy crisis facing the West African sub-region. The ECOWAS Parliament Joint Committee is conducting the 5-day delocalized meeting on energy and mines, industry and private sector, agriculture, environment and natural resources, as well as infrastructure. Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Sidi Mohamed Tuni, says the Parliament must deliberate on how not having energy affects micro, small and medium enterprises.
Let us consider the situation of our farmers, for example, who are making efforts to mechanize their farms, but are confronted with exorbitant costs of energy to run their means of production. Or the situation of our young artisans who cannot use their tools because of frequent power outages in their districts, thus stiffening their creativity.
All over the world, people have strengthened their grid, but we left our grid as it was over 50, 60 years ago, with the result that when you put in power, it collapses every time.
Now, still in West Africa, Human Rights Watch says more than 420 people in western Niger have died owing to terror attacks since January this year. The rights group, in a report, said it documented 9 attacks between January and July in the western Tillabéri and Tahoua regions located near the Mali and Burkina Faso borders. The group says it spoke to witnesses who said the attackers executed civilians in their homes after forcing them off public transport at wells, funerals, and while they farmed or watered their animals. The National Association of Resident Doctors in Nigeria has expressed worry over the non-resolution of the ongoing strike action by the federal government. Secretary General of the association, Jerry Isogun, told reporters after a closed-door meeting with representatives from Nigeria's Ministry of Health that the union is unhappy with the federal government's response to their demands. Isogun says resident doctors in the country only want the implementation of agreements reached with the federal government in the past.
We are here for actions. We need our members to be paid their salaries. We need the arrears of 2016 to be paid to our members. We need the circular that remove the house officers from the scheme of service to be withdrawn. We need our members to be migrated from the gifting platform, the platform that is causing this problem, causing the non-payment of salary, to be regularized. And if they do that, then we can talk to our members. And like I told you earlier, we are not happy that this is happening and government is taking, the whole day as if there's no crisis. There's crisis. Nigerians are suffering. The meeting was not satisfactory to us. But the honorable chairman told us that we should come here. This is our employer. We should come here so that we can take stock on what needed to be done.
The United Nations Children's Fund says that only 50% of new births are being registered in the country in collaboration with the UN agency. Now, this comes as Nigerian officials marked the 2021 Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Day in the country's capital, Abuja. Experts say, though birth registration worldwide was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a need to strengthen an integrated identity management system. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
According to UNICEF, Africa constitutes about 44% of unregistered births globally. The West African sub-region sees an increase in this figure, accounting for another 11%. As Nigeria joins other African Union countries to commemorate the 4th Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Day in Abuja, birth registration officials say every child should have a right to having his or her identity properly registered.
The right to participate in society and economy, and the right to access social services. This can only be attainable when the rights and civil liberties are founded and strengthened by an efficient and effective civil registration and vital statistics system.
Almost all the SDG goals could be calculated using data from a functional civil registration and vital statistics system, and the vital statistics gained from a civil registration system can provide up-to-date and accurate population data that is aggregated by sex, age, and geographical location.
While UNICEF notes that unregistered births in Nigeria stands at 50%, it says the data is important for planning and decision by government.
Conscious efforts should be made to ensure that civil registration and vital statistics system enjoys a broad-based support that leverages the development in information technology, interoperable and easy access to the generality of people.
We have to push forward the agenda for the realization of the theme, and UNICEF is committed in continuing to provide support to the National Population Commission to invest in a resilient and adaptive decentralized digital infrastructure to accelerate a universal birth registration system in Nigeria. In this, we aim also to improve data collection, its collation, management, and use of birth registration data in all aspects that relates to development.
The World Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Day provide an opportunity for government to reflect on the status of birth registration in their countries. Stakeholders says if properly implemented in line with global practice, Nigeria can speedily attain its sustainable development goals and improve the well-being of its citizens. From Abuja, Idong Joseph, News Central Television.
Now, Botswana expects to receive more vaccines after a slowdown to its vaccination program in the past few weeks owing to the unavailability of the vaccine. The Southern African country will receive 108,000 J&J vaccine doses on Thursday and a further 81,900 doses of the Pfizer vaccine on Saturday. The vaccines expected this week are projected to get the vaccine rollout plan back on track. A slow vaccination program has seen only about 132,000 people fully vaccinated and just well over 243,000 have received their first dose. Now, Kenya has set a target of December 2022 to vaccinate its entire adult population against COVID-19. The Health Ministry stated this in its daily COVID update, where it noted that 1.88 million persons had been vaccinated so far. On Wednesday, the Health Ministry reported close to 2,000 infections from a sample size of over 13,000 tests conducted in the last 24 hours. It said 30 new virus-related deaths were also reported, raising the total number of COVID-19 fatalities to more than 4,000. When the news returns, we'll bring you updates on a landslide in India's Himachal Pradesh region. Join us again. At least 2 people have died and dozens more are trapped under debris in a massive landslide in the northern Indian state of Himachal Pradesh. Local reports say falling boulders have buried a truck, a passenger bus, and other vehicles. Chief Minister Jairam Thakur says the police and local officials have begun rescue efforts. That there have been several deadly landslides in India in recent months during unusually heavy monsoon. The World Health Organization has announced major international trials of 3 drugs. The drugs are to assist in finding out whether they improve the condition of hospitalized COVID-19 patients. The Director General of the World Health Organization made this known during its weekly briefing in Geneva, Switzerland. He said Artesunate, imatinib, and infliximab would be tested on thousands of volunteer patients in more than 600 hospitals in 52 countries. The WHO Director General also announced the next phase in the Solidarity trial known as Solidarity Plus.
Last week, the 200 millionth case of COVID-19 was reported to WHO, just 6 months after the world passed the 100 million reported cases. And we know that the real number of cases is much higher. As I said recently, whether we reach 300 million and how fast we get there depends on all of us. At the current trajectory, we could pass 300 million reported cases early next year. But we can change that. We are all in this together, but the world is not acting like it.
Just to confirm that with 52 countries, as you can imagine, we cannot have all 52 starting at once. However, we can today say with confidence that half of them have already obtained all the ethical and regulatory approvals. But we need more because as a global sponsor, we need to have the evidence of all the submissions. We need to go through all the details, the training, to make sure that they all implement the trial correctly and according to protocol, and to support them in their preparations. So to be a little bit more specific, we have at least 10 to 15 countries for which the drugs have been shipped or are under shipment already today.
Namibia has sold 57 wild elephants through auction to raise 5.9 million Namibians, equivalent to $400,000. Now, a spokesperson for the Environment Ministry, Romeo Muyunde, says the elephants sold were among 170 put on tender in December of 2020. Muyunde says 15 elephants will be captured and remain in Namibia, while 42 will be exported. He says funds generated through the auction will be transferred into the Game Product Trust Fund to be reinvested in the conservation of Namibia's wild animals, including in community conservations. Now, the capturing will start this month to be conducted by Namibian registered game capture operators and supervised by the ministry's officials. That's big business. But talking about more business,
Welcome to Business on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun. Azerbaijan's Silkway West Airlines has signed an interline agreement with Kenya's Astral Aviation. This agreement is to provide cross-selling benefits for both sides by using the wide network of flights to and from Africa. Silkway West Airlines will carry shipments from its network to Dubai, handing them over to Astral Aviation's flight to Nairobi, where shipments will connect to their network. The agreement will allow Silkway West Airlines to broaden its network towards Africa. Subsequently, the carriers will be in a position to complement each other, as there is a number of markets where both airlines do not overlap with one another. Astral Aviation is a cargo airline based in Nairobi, Kenya. Established in November 2000, it operates scheduled and non-scheduled cargo charters to regional destinations in Africa and to Liège in Belgium. Silkway West Airlines is the largest cargo airline in the Caspian Sea region. Morocco's Minister of Industry, Trade and Green and Digital Economy, Moulay Hafid El Ami, is in the U.S. on a working visit to promote the Moroccan aeronautics industry and seek investments for this key sector. The minister will meet with Stanley Deal, the executive vice president of Boeing, and a number of other significant figures in the North American aeronautics sector. The biggest international manufacturers have invested in Morocco-based factories. In addition to Boeing, Airbus, and Bombardier are also present. The Moroccan industrial sector, particularly the automotive and aeronautic industries, greatly suffered with the advent of COVID-19, which initiated significant industrial sector closure. In September of 2016, Morocco signed an agreement that Boeing will seek to attract its suppliers to boost the kingdom's aeronautics industry. The project, dubbed Boeing Ecosystem, aimed at the time to bring around 120 suppliers of the company to help raise Morocco's aeronautics exports by $1 billion and create 8,700 jobs. Nigeria has generated a total of 512.3 billion naira from value-added tax in the second quarter, compared with 496.39 billion naira realized in the first quarter of the year. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that the Q1 figure increased by 3.2% compared with that of Q1 2020. On a year-on-year basis, VAT revenue rose by 56.6%. In the corresponding period in 2020, VAT revenue was 327.2 billion naira. The performance was led by transactions in the manufacturing and professional finance services sectors, which contributed 44.9 billion and 29.3 billion naira respectively. Commercial and trading came third with 22 billion naira in VAT. On the flip side, the textile and garment industry generated the least, followed by pioneering and pharmaceutical soaps, toiletries with 77.7 million, 169 million and 188.71 million naira respectively. African Property Owners Association is happy with the announcement by the Ithakwini municipality that property owners worst affected by riots and vandalism that gripped Greater Durban in July stand to get a rates rebate of up to 75%. The association's CEO, Neil Gopal, said it is a positive step. He did raise a warning that the construction mafia in KwaZulu-Natal may take advantage of the rebuilding efforts in the province. The mayor of Ithakwini announced business support measures last week that include rates relief to assist companies and property owners affected by the unrest in Greater Durban. Areas in KwaZulu-Natal were the worst affected by the recent unrest. However, parts of Kutang and Mpumalanga were also hit. And staying in South Africa as we wrap up, the Department of Public Enterprises has welcomed the High Court judgment today to place Mango SOC Limited under business rescue effective from July 28, 2021. The boards of South African Airways and Mango took a resolution to place the low-cost airline under business rescue due to financial and operational challenges. The decision is good news for all stakeholders in the aviation industry as it brings certainty to the process that will unfold to restructure Mango and ensure a sustainable aviation assets that will service the low-cost market in the country. And that's business on NC Continental Prime. Don't forget to tune in to Business Edge, 11 a.m. West African time, Monday through Friday, as we take a look at the biggest business stories on the continent. I'm Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun. There's more news after this.
Many thanks, Tolulokwe. Now we turn to Sean Bankole and the digital team for the latest trending stories of the day.
Yes. You know how we do it. Hot big trends on the timeline today, and we are checking them out, plus the conversations they have generated online. Thank you for joining us on NC Trends. My name is Sean Bankole. First big story. The Uganda Christian University body yesterday held a student leaders conference to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the education sector in Uganda. The goal was to hear the students' voice on how they are and how better the education system must do in this COVID-19 period. This move has generated lots of comments, and it is clear that 50 million children are out of school and the price of online services are costly. The big question remains, what must be done to enable children go back to schools in Uganda? Let's see a few tweets. Slim Happy says the government ought to have a clear education and infrastructure policy before implementation, mainly for the children in rural areas. Dime says, since the youth are the future is currently seated at home. We need to change the government's priorities. Hashtag Students' Voice Uganda. Also, Dr. Martin K says, we need to look deeper into the education sector with more precision and embrace an element within it called psychosocial development. Hashtag Students' Voice Uganda. We now move to South Africa, where sweeps are unhappy with the new Johannesburg mayor, Jolidi Matongo, and have created the We Reject Mayor of JHB hashtag to reject him on the basis that he is half Zimbabwean. Matongo was elected after receiving more than 260 council votes on Tuesday, and he remains uncontested, a rare occurrence in the city, actually. He is the son of a Zimbabwean who migrated to South Africa several years ago, and he has been named the new Johannesburg executive mayor after a special meeting to fill the post left vacant by Geoff Makubo, who succumbed to COVID-19 complications. When he accepted his nomination to be mayor during Tuesday's council, Matongo said, and I quote, "I, Jolidi Matongo, the son of the late Edward Matongo, a migrant from Zimbabwe, do here accept the nomination for the executive mayor of our city." Today, Matongo is expected to be inaugurated as mayor, as announced by his members of mayoral committee team, but South Africans are not having it, though some of them have an issue with the fact that the rest of South Africans have rejected him, but some of them are not down for it. Let's see a few tweets. Ofani Justice says, tribalism is a disease which must be fought against and be defeated or exorcised. VMix says, South Africa has such a huge population of people born of migrant fathers. Some of y'all were never told about your fathers who are migrant men. You got relatives who have one parent as a migrant. Do you hate them too? Are you saying all these people have no right to be South African? Also, Top Dog says, South Africa is our only home. We cannot allow this to happen under our watch. When we wake up, our country will be long gone. Hashtag reject mayor of PHP. Now, that's all on that. There will be no disrespect as long as I am head of house. Nope, I didn't say this. Pere did. The third head of house for Big Brother Naija Season 6, Pere, has declared that he will condone no disrespect while holding the position. The wildcard housemates addressed fellow housemates this morning after a fight broke out between Maria and Queen. Authoritatively speaking, the head of house told the others that his position comes with respect and he must be treated accordingly. He said, and I quote, "You can disrespect me as a person, but the emblem on my neck signifies authority. So there will be no disrespect as long as I am the head of house." Many viewers of the show found the speech demeaning to fellow housemates and have since tagged him General Pere of the Big Brother military regime. Let's see a few posts from the gram. D_billionaire says, with the training that he's passed through, he knows the value of authority, so him they flex him. At least something will make the show interesting. Content. Also, Foodie Dakuk says, Pere's eviction go too bad, though. The way housemates will nominate him back to back, We are looking forward to Sunday. Mara Odefe says, Omo, if Pere be assistant Jesus, if he come out everybody's name from the book of life, if we no greet him. And that's it on NC Trends today. Remember to follow us across social media at News Central TV and subscribe on YouTube to stay up to date with back-to-back reports from around the African continent. I am Seun Bankole. Thank you for watching.
Well, it's 3 days after the curtains fell at the Tokyo Olympics. We're still talking about the fallout from the Summer Games. Barrow is here to tell us about some of the post-Olympic updates and other sports stories. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Sulai. Of course, in the world of sport, we begin in Ghana, where the country's delegation from the just concluded Olympic Games have touched down in the country's capital with the Olympic torch. The Olympic torch, symbolizing Ghana's participation at the 37th game, precedes Team Ghana's arrival, scheduled for this Thursday from the Asian country. And all being equal, the seat of government is expected to host Ghana's representatives at the Jubilee House, which will be followed by a refreshment ceremony, a visit to the Youth and Sport Ministry, Jamestown, and other places. Team Ghana are returning home with a bronze medal they won in boxing, courtesy Samuel Taki in the featherweight division, and the country's first Olympic medal in 29 years. Now straight now to Namibia, where teen athletes and their first woman Olympian medalist, Christine Mboma, was given a water cannon salute, songs, dance, and a carnival street parade when she touched down from Tokyo. Now, water cannons showered the commercial jets that flew back home the 18-year-old at an international airport to celebrate the country's second ever Olympic medal since independence 3 decades ago. Mboma surged through a star-studded women's 200 meters field to claim silver in 21.81 seconds, a new under-20 world record.
First of all, I would like to thank my family and everyone who's here. And I would like to thank the whole nation and my fans and my friends for all the support and the love. And I feel proud to be Namibian, and I feel proud to bring silver to the land of the brave.
We try to not see it as an obstacle, but as a challenge. So we handled it as a challenge, and both girls and athletes did well, and they took on the world and just decided we're not going to get off track with just that news.
Nigerian footballer Francisca Odega has joined a 10th professional club there for a 10th move where she swapped Spanish Premier Iberdrola side Levante for Russian club CSKA Moscow. The 27-year-old forward leaves Levante 5 months into a 3-year contract as she opts for a new adventure with the reigning Russian champ. Of course, Odega has signed a 2.5-year deal with CSKA Moscow, who are competing in the new look of the 2021-2022 UEFA Women's Champions League. Still talking about football, Lionel Messi has held his first press conference as a player for Paris Saint-Germain. The 34-year-old will thank the fans, and president of his new club says he feels happy and impatient at the same time. The Argentine, who has previously only played for Barcelona for the last 21 years, will wear the number 30 jersey. Meanwhile, Paris Saint-Germain president said he hopes TV rights in the league will go higher because of Messi's presence. He's also poured cold water on rumors of Kylian Mbappe leaving the club, saying the Frenchman has no excuse to quit Paris Saint-Germain, given a signing like Messi. Paris Saint-Germain's next game of the new season will be at home against Strasbourg on Saturday, August 14.
Esta nueva etapa.
And finally in sport, it's 89th minute played for the UEFA Super Cup, where Chelsea host Villarreal there for the Super Cup to know who becomes the champion for 2021. Of course, the Super Cup is being played by the winners of the Champions League and the Europa League. Now, looking at that, who drew first blood? Chelsea drew first blood from Moroccan forward Hakim Ziyech, who had the first goal there, and then replied by Moreno from Villarreal. The score stands at 1-1 at this point. We're hoping to see a result coming in from that game, as it's still on play right now. That wraps it up in the world of sport. I am Onyechi Obaro. Back to you, Salai, for more.
Well, many thanks, Onyechi. I really think that a lot of Africans and soccer fans across the world can't wait to see what it's going to be like playing out of your comfy zone this weekend, talking about Lionel Messi.
Yeah, of course, we can't wait to see what happens to him when he starts the first game against Strasbourg there for Paris Saint-Germain.
It's a game after all.
Thank you, sir.
Many thanks, Onye.
Thank you.
Now, Earth climate system is changing across the entire planet, and human activities are worsening its effects, which are widespread, rapid, and intensifying. Now, the fires, floods, and extreme weather around the world in recent months are just a full state of what can be expected if global heating takes a hold as the world's leading authority on climate change prepares to warn of an imminent and dire risk to the global climate system. In all of this mix, Chidima Wonsu has the special package to unearth and unpack it all.
Climate scientists are increasingly concerned that global heating will trigger tipping points in Earth's natural systems, which will lead to widespread and possibly irrevocable disaster unless action is taken urgently. The fires, floods, and extreme weather seen around the world in recent months are just a foretaste of what can be expected if global heating takes hold.
This IPCC report is a code red for humanity. The alarm bells are deafening and the evidence is irrefutable. But I must agree with Greta Thunberg that this report held no surprises. This has been something we all have been clamoring for years, asking multinational companies, major governments to take more stringent climate actions. And honestly, we've gotten little to no responses.
There are many ways to reduce emissions of carbon dioxide and other warming agents, including shifting energy supply away from dependence on fossil fuels, energy efficiency in the domestic, industrial service and transport sectors, reduction in overall demand through better system design, and efficient reductions in emissions.
The International Panel for Climate Change (IPCC) report that has just been released under the auspices of the United Nations is a confirmation of what thousands of scientists have been saying through their diligent research over the past few decades, and particularly in the last 7 years, that if we continue with this massive pollution of the atmosphere with greenhouse gases, particularly carbon dioxide and methane, we risk going into the 1.5 degrees centigrade threshold above pre-industrial levels of the average temperature of our planet.
Now, global heating is another degree, is an extreme degree, a greater degree of global warming, basically. And guess what? In the report, we're told that we are in the red, basically. And if nothing is done right now, basically, we can't come out of it. We can't come out of the climate change that is about to happen.
Only rapid and drastic reductions in greenhouse gases in this decade can prevent such climate breakdown, with every fraction of a degree of further heating likely to compound the accelerating effects, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the world's leading authority on climate science. Chilima Nwosu, reporting for News Central.
Now let's go to our weather desk to look at what to expect in terms of sunshine and precipitation across the continent. As all others are, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has testified before the State Capture Commission of Inquiry. The government of Zambia has heightened security in hotspots ahead of Thursday's general elections. And finally, we told you that the Nigerian government has introduced a roads and bridges tolling policy. Now you can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. You can also watch News Central live on Star Times, Channel 274, Avio TV, Channel 23, Vision 247, Free TV, as well as on YouTube. I'm Sulaiman Alede. Many thanks for watching.